Why do I not have a NAS? Why am I running a Mac Mini server with 15 containers? What did I learn from having virtual machines versus containers? I'll tell you, they're all related. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button and notifications. This channel is built so that I can support my special needs son, and that's one of the reasons I don't have a NAS right now, is the lack of disposable income. The other reason I don't have a NAS is I had a computer and it died twice. It died the first time because I just kept the, I think, Seagate drive that was in there that came from the factory. I had the computer for almost 10 years, and one day the hard drive just died. It was part of a, Seagate had a rash of bad drives back in the day, and I was lucky enough to get one of them. So I went out and bought two new drives, a 2.5-inch solid state drive for the OS, a 3.5-inch hard drive to run cold storage, but this time I bought it a storage specific drive. I effectively put a NAS drive in my computer, and everything was great until my PC died again. The motherboard went out. At this time, I'd had it. I yanked the two drives out. I bought a $30 caddy that can hold both of them at the same time, but plugs in via USB-C. And I plugged it into a computer I had at the time that was temporary. When I could, I bought a Mac Mini and plugged it in. And since then, well, I still haven't bought a NAS because I still haven't found the need. One thing a NAS does that I genuinely can't, and I only found out while making this video. So why container? I'll tell you. I had VMs running. The main one was the Home Assistant operating system that ran as a VM. Every time the computer rebooted, every time I lost power, there was a problem starting the VM. Whether it didn't attach the drive, the hard disk, whether it just wouldn't auto start, there was always something. I tried running Colima with CasaOS and converting Home Assistant to a Docker container, and it was great, but I had problems with Colima, system resources, and it just didn't work for me. I converted over to OrbStack, and I haven't looked back since. Since moving from that iMac that I ran to the new Mac Mini, OrbStack's on the new one. I did a quick backup, exported the Compose files. Since I already had the files on disk, I just had to re-import them on the new machine, point them back to the same disk location, and everything was up and running real quick. So there are three jobs that people buy a NAS for. That if you look at the 15 containers I have 15 containers. Now, 3 of those containers, most people would buy a NAS for. 2 of my containers that typically would need a NAS are my media serving and my library hosting in both Jellyfin for movies and Audiobooks Shelf for audiobooks. The other key component, and people tend to buy a NAS just for this, is I have scripted feeding Frigate for a network video recorder, and there's people that dedicate an entire NAS to their video camera recordings. Now, my other 12 containers are things that make my life easier. For example, Home Assistant, but Home Assistant also is connected to Frigate, I'm probably butchering that, ESP Home, Mosquito, and Govita MQTT. I have utilities on there that help me manage my network, like Pi-hole for local DNS and ad blocking, U-bound for recursive DNS, Nginx Proxy Manager, also called NPM, to basically, so I don't have to remember all the ports. It translates all of the localhost :8875 to something that I can remember. Portainer to manage all the containers, and I use orb.net or orbfort to notice the difference between the network reliability in the container stack versus the network reliability on the host itself. And then I've got other utilities like home pages and things like that. just to, again, make my life easier. Now on disk, the whole container system takes up about 12 gigs on the host, about 11.35 gig in or disk images for those containers. The containers are just over 300 meg, and that includes the volumes. It's a very light stack with no dead weight. Now, for those of you that are going to tell me my hard drive is full, you're not wrong, but you are not right either. I have an internal drive that's 500 gig. Some of it is reserved for systems, so about 460 is available inside the Mac OS. I've got 413 used with 22 free, so that's 95%. Well, why is it not an issue? Well, 93 gigs is for Xcode. I play around trying to make myself or my wife little applications that make our lives easier. For example, we just built Couch List, so it logs into all of our streaming media accounts like Netflix, Paramount Plus, etc., YouTube, and it builds us a single watch list that auto launches directly to the app that we open for the show. We can sort it by TV shows, movies. It's got connection to my digital media files that are stored. And again, it's just a convenience app. And I'm always playing and trying stuff. And so you've got not only the code, but you've got the files for the virtual Apple TV, the virtual iPhone, the virtual Mac. So for me, my biggest killer is Xcode, and if I stop screwing around, that would go away. There's a ratio of 8:1 Xcode-to-homelab, and the NAS wouldn't have freed up any of it. I have 4 cameras that I use every day, and if you've seen my other video about Go-to-RTC, you'll know that I use Home Assistant for my cameras, and my wife uses Apple Home. Now, I have converted from Go-to-RTC to scripted, but that's for another time. Those 4 cameras have a rolling 7-day policy that auto records and overwrites files after 7 days. I've got 0 continuous recording, and I've got 0 motion detection. My camera footprint is under 3 gigs projected, 0.1% of my drive. That's it. That's all I have for my cameras. I don't have a 12 terabyte NAS dedicated to them. I don't have a 4 terabyte NAS dedicated to them. 3 gigs. That's all I have. Now, if you're wondering why I don't record those, I do, just not to my PC. Each camera has a local micro SD card, and I can pull those anytime I want to. Ideally, I would also back them up to the camera, but the entire scripted thing with the camera snapshots is literally so I can do facial detection and have it pop up on my Apple TV that says, hey, so-and-so is at the door, so-and-so is doing something in the house, whatever the case may be. So going back to the beginning of the journey, my VM always broke with power outages and reboots. I don't deal with that anymore. I have OrmStack and the containers. They auto start. Everything comes up clean, quickly. And then I introduce Sentinel. Sentinel makes sure that all the containers come back online. It probes for readiness, the Docker state. It makes sure that I've got escalation tiers. It's the canary in the coal mine that texts me when there's a problem. Right now, my computer's been up for 4 days, 13 hours. So I don't need it. I patch regularly. I reboot when needed. What did the NAS replacement cost me? Well, like I said, it cost me the $30 for the dual SATA caddy. The drives I already had. That gave me just under 4 terabytes of raw disk with a little over 2.5 terabytes in use. If you bought a 2-bay diskless enclosure, something like the Synology DiskStation 224J, those start at $170 to $190. You can get a Ugreen DXP 2800 for $220 to $250, and the prices go on and on from there. And again, these are for diskless. That's just for the NAS. Then you got to buy the drives. Well, if you buy the hard drives like I've got, which are not as fast and not state of the art, they're 85 to 130. A SATA solid state drive is 250 to 550. And then if you want the real fast blazing stuff that your Apple can take advantage of, you get the NVMe, but those are 400 to 600. And in a 2-bay RAID 1, that's 4 terabytes of usable space, with the hard drive going for 170 to 260, all the way up to the NVMe going for 800 to 1200 for 4 terabytes. I have $30 into my setup for the caddy, nothing for the salvage drive. I spent a whopping total of $30. A budget NAS is going to cost you between $340 to $450. A mainstream NAS is going to run you $390 to $515, and an all solid state drive NAS like the B-Link Mini that took the world by storm last year is going to run you somewhere between $720 to $1355, and that's for 4 terabytes. Now these NASs can go up to 64 terabytes, so it's all in what you're willing to spend. So what does that money actually buy you? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have redundancy. I don't have RAID. I have no parity. I have no mirroring, and I have no hot swap. Both external drives report a smart status of not supported. So I'm at risk. But why don't I worry about it? Well, Sentinel watches my service. Nothing watches my drives, but that's okay. I'm blind to that one layer. Why am I not worried? Well, I do have a layered approach to save my data. My OrbStack-HomeLab backs up to a private GitHub repo every day at 3:30. It only commits when something has changed, so if nothing has changed on disk, then there's nothing to update. It backs up the configuration, the Docker Compose files, the Home Assistant directories, my homepage directories, the Sentinel directory itself, and the syncing utilities. It does not back up the data on disk. So my Jellyfin library, audiobooks, HA recorder databases, that's all on disk. The 2.2 terabyte media library has no backup at all. Pictures, documents go to the cloud. Apps are backed up using Homebrew. And why am I not concerned with the data? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I am. And I don't do it all the time, but I do take manual backups and copy off my Docker data to the cloud. Who should buy a NAS? Well, whoever needs one. In my case, the hard drives I already had cost me nothing. Everything's as reliable as it can be. I don't have redundancy, and I don't have drive health or dedicated hardware, but I don't need it. Those people that need the redundancy, that are afraid to lose data, that are not comfortable with manual backups, or frankly that just want convenience, should buy a NAS. I'm not against NASs, I just didn't have the disposable income for one. Well, I hope y'all have a blessed day. Take care, and please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.